Every year, theatre shows in the West End make more than £500 million. But for individual productions, it can go horribly wrong. This is the story of a West End production that became the shortest running show in modern West End history, opening and closing within 24 hours.
Well, it's Friday morning and welcome to Radio 1.
When Radio 1 DJ Mike Reed came up with the idea of writing and composing an all-singing, all-dancing tribute to the tragic life of Oscar Wilde, it was always going to be a tough sell.
I think we ought to have a jingle.
Most West End musicals look for at least a couple of £1 million as a start-up fund and employ a big team behind the scenes. Not Mike. It was Reed's decision to produce, direct and fund the entire show by himself, and that turned out to be the real problem. The first duty of a theatre producer is to secure the right venue. Mike chose the Shore, his first big error. The Shore had promised to launch Oscar as the centrepiece of an expensive relaunch. That, according to Reed, never happened.
We were told the theatre was going to spend $250,000 on, re-establishing it, because it was basically a conference centre. It wasn't on the map. The taxi drivers didn't know where it was. They weren't on, they hadn't got an email address or anything like that. So it was a bit of a disaster.
Without the support he expected from the theatre, Oscar's box office pre-sales were disastrous, with just 5 paying customers in total. Traditionally, it's advanced ticket sales that fund a show's start-up costs, PR, marketing, that sort of thing. Without these, no one even knew Oscar the Musical was on. As the curtain rose on press night, Mike knew he needed good reviews to help drum up box office business. But then another disaster hit.
The sound was all over the place, and there were real problems. I spent most of that night walking the streets. I knew that we were really up against it.
Jittery, waiting to see what the papers brought.
No, I knew it wasn't going to be good.
And he was right. Benedict Nightingale, theatre critic of the Times, remembers what he saw.
It wasn't a very successful first night. In fact, it was a bit of a disaster. And I looked at my review and I was slightly shocked by it, embarrassed by it, because you don't want to be too nasty, but this is what I said for what it's worth. What would Oscar Wilde say if he was condemned to watch the musical celebration of his 150th birthday? Something about his hair going grey from gratitude, perhaps. Or maybe he'd be too busy chewing his green carnation in dismay to rejig his old epigrams. Not very nice.
And that was generous compared with some.
If I were a rich man.
But this was much more than an artistic failure. With no third-party investors, terrible pre-sales, and a disastrous product launch, Oscar the Musical faced an immediate cash flow problem. His dilemma was simple: to stem the financial bleeding by injecting more of his own money, or cut and run. Reed chose the latter, closing the show after an unprecedented one night.
Why couldn't you have gone on?
I couldn't go on because I didn't have the money of a major West End producer. Cameron Mackintosh and Andrew Lloyd Webber or Bill Kenwright might have said, you know what, it's only a hiccup. Let's carry on. We love the piece. We believe in the piece. Let's keep going with it. I couldn't afford to do that, so I had to make a very, very quick decision as to whether to carry on or whether to cut and run then. And I think that was the decision. I said, no, I can't get deeper and deeper in here. So I took the decision to pull it.
Some reports put the figure Mike lost at close to £80,000. A drop in the ocean to the big boys maybe, but a huge loss to one man, which leaves me with one last question to ask.
In this world, the world of show business, there's the show and there's the business. Business is the difficult end of it. And there you are, producing this thing, didn't work, and you've never done it again.
I'd never wanted to be a producer, learned a lesson, wouldn't do it again, and you stuck your neck out. But again, you can look back for what it's worth and say you're in good company down the decades of people that have gone, whoops, you shouldn't have done that.
The great Oscar couldn't have put it better himself.